Today on Flawedcast. Is evil real? Yes, Virginia. Evil's real.
Flawedcast. Flawedcast. Get in the arena.
We are rolling.
Good morning.
Good morning, Vietnam.
All right. Well, to that end, even if it isn't morning and you're listening in the evening or afternoon, we want to thank you and welcome you to another fun-filled, fact-filled, and hopefully triggering episode of Flawedcast. As always, I am here with my co-host, who is certainly a tall drink of water to me, Jason.
I really like when you call me astute, but I'll go with the tall drink of water.
Well,
Appreciate that, Willie Will.
I can't do that every
He's
episode.
more than just a set of legs, Bill.
Thank you, John. I really
I'll
appreciate
validate
that.
you, unlike Sir Will.
Listen, Bill, you are the bomb, brother.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you. And don't call it a comeback. He's been here
for a week.
For a week.
Is Johnny.
There's Johnny. Yeah, we
Johnny.
had such an overwhelming response.
Yeah. Everybody's crazy about a sharp-dressed man.
That's
but
right.
then there's me, too. So.
And then
Cheap sunglasses. Dun, dun.
there you go. So my favorite song of theirs is Mexican Blackbird, which I don't know if that's racially insensitive to say.
I think in a couple of different ways.
It triggers, Bill. It triggers.
Well, that apparently is my goal in life. But anyway, I want to thank everyone for tuning in again. And last episode, so far, so good. People are liking the new dynamic. Actually, as I was editing it last week, I was like, my God, this is hilarious. So I personally got a lot out of re-listening to it. And this...
Well, let me tell you, last episode was good, but this episode is money.
Cash money, brother.
Boom.
Dollar bill,
Cash
y'all.
money for CMB.
Yeah.
Am I my brother's keeper? Sit your $5 ass down before I make change. Anyway, that's a New Jack City reference if you don't know.
If you don't know, now you know.
Now you know. So, get the proper stuff out of the way. Want to thank everybody once again. Make sure you subscribe. We are everywhere that you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. We are on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, hit that bell. Flawed Inc., Flawedcast, Flawedcast CLE. Make sure you follow us on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Gab, Parler. And, I guess without further ado, we're just going to get into this. And I guess to kick this one off, it really hit me this week. The three of us are kind of news junkies, and Jason didn't take this week off of listening to the news, so I didn't have to break his heart for that.
No, you didn't, but forget it. I'm just going to go somewhere and keep going, Bill.
Nice.
My achy, breaky heart.
So that being said, when we do the preparation for this, I just, we kind of think and pray and like, God, what do you want to talk about? And honestly, this week, this is what hit me. We've had conversations separately, and even this morning, we're kind of doing some game planning. I want to believe, and it is a struggle right now, that Americans generally are good-hearted, good-natured people. I want to believe that. Not seeing that by and large, or at least the purveyors of the bully pulpit want us to believe that, but I really do want to believe, by and large, Americans are good-hearted, good-natured, decent humans.
Good, real good.
And with that, I believe there is this innate desire in us to project our humanity onto others, our goodness, our kindness, our love onto others. The dangerous thing about that is it can really lead down a road of being horribly deceived.
Right.
And B, the problem with that idea is that a lot of people right now, and I'm sorry to say this does kind of suck, I think are starting to give over to those evil desires, if you will, or just letting that evil, kind of reign in their heart. So what I thought is, this is directed towards everyone, but this week, my heart's just been really hurting for Christians, for the church, for community of faith. And here's the thing. I really believe people want to put their head in the sand and say, no, evil isn't real.
Yeah.
That there is no evil, that there is no impetus from where this comes from. We can simply just say circumstances, or life hands us a shit sandwich, and, we just have to eat. And where there is a lot of truth in that, right now, what we are seeing by and large isn't that. And what we are going to do, I know I have a lot of personal stories. I know Johnny does, and we can get into that if we have time. But we really want to unpack from a biblical perspective, and like I said, maybe from our personal perspective, that evil is real. Evil is a thing. Evil is alive.
So, Bill, it's crazy that this is kind of what came to you, and this is, what you want to talk about this week, because I went out with my wife on Thursday. And we went to a nice little jazz club
Ooh.
and the devil was on stage playing heartstrings. You know what I'm saying?
He didn't go down to Georgia.
No, but he was playing heartstrings. And I feel like that's a lot of what's happening right now.
I'm going to assume that is more than a metaphor, but yes. And this is where we're coming from, because if you've been a long-time listener, you know, like, I've got a lot of medical issues. And the one thing that's been coming back to me, I know, save the jokes. But the one thing that's been coming back to me is the thought of, if I had ignored my medical conditions and had not been honest and say, yeah, I'm not feeling well, or I am not doing good, and ignored it and hoped it would go away, I'd probably be dead. No, I would be dead. I can say that with certainty. And where we're at right now is, if we in love do not begin to speak to this evil. Now notice I'm choosing my words very carefully. Speak to this evil. And we're going to get into what I mean. But understanding that evil is real, that we do have a legitimate enemy that seeks to wreak havoc, to steal, kill, and destroy, as the scriptures say, then we're literally shadow boxing. We're expending our energy. But the funny thing is, we're not even getting in shape as we're doing it.
Right.
And the whole purpose of shadow boxing is, to get in shape, to prepare yourself for the fight. We're just spinning our wheels and we're not gaining anything out of it. So we have to address this. We have to come to a place where we can just say, listen, in the spirit of love and in truth, this is not accurate. This is not a fact. We will not be able to move forward as a country, as a society. And I would even say a world, because if America falls, the world is going to fall. That's just the reality. We're really at a tipping point. The U.S. Constitution is the longest active and practiced constitution that's ever been in history, and by far the most successful. We can't just let that go away.
Right.
We would be cowards, and we would not be good stewards of what our forebears, of what our parents, grandparents, what great men and women throughout history have done. And this is our hour that we stand and we say, evil is real, but it is not something to fear, and it certainly isn't anything to behold in a manner of like awe, or as we reverence God. So what I'm going to do is, we got a bunch of scriptures. I'm going to ask Jason, if you read the first one, and then Johnny, if you could read the second one. Yep. Now, this is going to be long. Don't tune out, because this is important. This may be one of the most important episodes that we've done, because if we can't understand this concept, like I said, we're going to be shadow boxing.
Ezekiel 28:12-19 from the New International Version. Son of man, take up a lament concerning the king of Tyre, and say to him, this is what the sovereign Lord says. You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom, and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you. Carnelian, chrysolite, and emerald, topaz, onyx, and jasper. Lapis, lazuli, turquoise, and beryl. Your setting and mountings were made of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, for so I ordained you. You were on the holy mount of God. You walked among the fiery stones. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created till wickedness was found in you. Through your widespread trade you were filled with violence, and you sinned. So I drove you in disgrace from the mount of God, and I expelled you, guardian cherub, from among the fiery stones. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth. I made a spectacle of you before kings. By your many sins and dishonest trade, you have desecrated your sanctuaries. So I made a fire come out from you, and it consumed you, and I reduced you to ashes on the ground in the sight of all who are watching. All the nations who knew you are appalled at you. You have come to a horrible end, and will be no more.
Talk about calling them out. If that's not the ultimate.
Right. Well, go ahead and do the next one, then we'll comment.
We're going to roll right into Isaiah 14, verses 12-15.
Affirmative.
From the Niv version. How you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. You have been cast down to earth, you who once laid low the nations. You said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly, on the utmost heights of Mount Zaphon, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. But you were brought down to the realm of the dead, to the depths of the pit. Shall I continue on, good sir? Continuing on, 12 through 17. What a come down.
Well, this is the message version.
This is the message version. Oh, that's right. We are in the message now, which is the message version is Billy's go-to, I believe.
No, NIV is, but I just like to compare and contrast because I think you get different things out of different versions.
Yeah, I'm a King Jimmy guy, but I definitely do the same thing as well. What a come down this, O Babylon, Daystar, son of dawn. Flat on your face in the underworld mud, you famous the flattering nations. You said to yourself, I'll climb to heaven, I'll set my throne over the stars of God. I'll run the assembly of angels that meets on the sacred Mount Zaphon. I'll climb to the top of the clouds, I'll take over as king of the universe. But you didn't make it, did you? Instead of climbing up, you came down with the underground dead, down to the abyss of the pit. People will stare and muse, can this be the one who terrorized Earth and its kingdoms, turned Earth to a moonscape, wasted its cities, shut up its prisoners to a living death?
All right. So those in Isaiah and Ezekiel, those are the two predominant verses that kind of lay out what we call Satan or Lucifer.
Right.
And one could make an argument that this is a Judeo-Christian belief, but if you study most religions outside of New Age religions, there is the notion of good and evil. Obviously, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hindu, Buddhism, things like that. The idea of light and dark, good and bad, is very prevalent in all of them. And for Judeo-Christian beliefs, which is what our country was founded on, not saying we subscribe to that so much anymore, unfortunately, but the idea that there was an origin point of effectively as God is light, Lucifer is darkness. And this is just our starting point. Now you can call him, Scratch, Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies. He goes by a lot of names, but the hierarchy of, and I love how in the message it talks about you laid flat on your face in the underworld mud. So it talks about the idea that he was a chief cherub. I mean, he was a chief worshiper. His job effectively was created for was to worship God. And then he's like, nah, I'm going to do this on my own. And God's like, nah, and cast him out. So, and when you point everything back to it, the sin of pride is what we're talking about. Now, what I can tell you is, I want to word this properly. What I can tell you is that evil, destruction, the idea of being dastardly is a very evil notion. Or, not only is it evil, but it's a very easy notion. It's something very easy to give into. Mm-hmm. Jason and I quote this in a couple different episodes, but it reminds me of that movie Desperado where Antonio Banderas is trying to teach the kid how to play mariachi, and he's like, it's easier to pull the trigger than to play guitar. He's like, easier to destroy than to create. Well, where do we get that from? Effectively, we're unfolding that now. God is the creator. I would say, to be clever, Satan is the eliminator or the destructor or whatever you want to say. And it's important to realize, and we're going to get into this, but where we're at right now is a spiritual battle. Okay. It's easy, and I'm, confession time. It's easy to want to just knock someone's block off or whatever wordage you want to say, but we have to try to resist that. And in that, we have some articles that, to me, actually shell out evil. Like, some of the things in the articles we're going to discuss are legitimate evils, and I'm trying to really rein myself in because I don't want to piss people off just for the sake of that. If I can say something that will provoke thought, I want to, but the idea that there's any kind of...
I guess a middle ground?
I'm going to say that there's any kind of systematic... The idea that in America there isn't a level playing ground.
Right.
Let me word that as PC as I can. The idea in America that there isn't a level playing ground, that is a notion birthed in pride. The fact that you are an American means you won the global lottery.
Right.
Wait. Say that again, Bill.
The fact that you are an American,
just an American?
No preface to that.
No.
Interesting.
I
like that.
The fact that someone is a American citizen, America, they won the global lottery.
Right.
There has been no other example of freedom that has lasted this long in the natural world as there has been America. And what we are seeing in...
Now, as you say that, I just want to throw a couple things out. Does that mean there haven't been mistakes?
No.
What are you listening to? You're listening to Flawedcast. We are Flawed, Inc. As humans, we are flawed. We will always be flawed. There is no perfect. I just want to make sure we're clear with that. So I agree with you 100%, Bill, but at the same time, I want to make sure that people understand that our stance, I'm speaking for the two of you right now, is also that not only have you won the global lottery, as you said, Bill, like how lucky we are to be free in America, we've made mistakes along the way. And we will always make mistakes along the way. But just because you make a mistake doesn't mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
I just want to make sure that.
No, that's great. Well, then in that case, and
there's two things though. I don't want to move forward yet because there's two things that pop in my head as I'm listening to you talk. Okay, the first thing is, as my boy Vanilla Ice said, I think we could all take a lesson from his famous song, and we all need to stop, collaborate, and listen. Okay, I'm serious. Because this is what, in my mind, is happening a lot. And I think this relates to what you were talking about, Bill. If it doesn't, stop me and cut it out. When I teach a class, taking this to the business world, and I teach a class, I teach a lot of, I worked in franchising for years. So these people would buy a franchise, and I would teach them how to run their business. Okay, and at the time, I was a 30-year-old kid to them. These are 50 and 60-year-old adults that have been very successful in their life and made a lot of money and invest all this money to buy this business. And who the hell am I? Right. You know what I mean? Which I totally get. And they respected me and listened to what I had to say because I had some good stuff to say. But when we would have a class or we would do an event, we would have a sheet that was called Helps and Hinders. What will help us be successful today in this class? What are things that could hinder us? And one thing that I always made sure was on there as a hinder was what we call blocking. Okay? And there you can block internally and you can block externally. But blocking is this. When someone says something, I default to, that doesn't work for me, or you're not right. I don't stop, collaborate, and listen. I shut you down. Again, it could be internally. I might not say it. You might just all of a sudden see a glaze over my eyes. I'm like, whatever. Or I might say, whoa, stop right there. Stop right there. I'm not even going to listen to you because that doesn't work. Listen to my experience, but I'm not listening to yours, okay? That's got to come to an end, folks. There's a spectrum that we live in, and it's not one side of the spectrum or the other. It's not how it works. It's this way or the highway. That's not how we got to where we are in this country. It's not just the extremes.
Absolutely.
And we're allowing the media and we're allowing a lot of folks to take away our thinking and telling us what to think instead of us thinking for ourselves. I'm not saying not to listen to everything. We've said this before on our podcast. Listen to everything. Absorb as much as you can. The idea there is absorb it, listen to it, compare and contrast, and make a decision for yourself.
Well, effectively what you're talking about, and since we're removing our history, most people wouldn't know this, but a lot of the founding fathers hated each other.
Right.
I mean,
That's very true.
They were vicious towards Jefferson and Adams. They were friends, but I just don't know how.
Right.
So my point,
It's kind of like me and John.
Yeah.
pretty much, which is why I'm trying to bring you two together. But so unity, we are living what we preach.
But what bonded them, their mission, their end game, which they had an end game, was stronger than what divided them.
Exactly. That's
and they
exactly
were
my point.
open. Yeah. They were open. They might not have agreed on everything.
Well,
and by the way, that's okay. And they may have had different perspectives, but they listened. Bill, I can't tell you how many times you and I have a different perspective. We listen to each other. We talk about. That's how my wife and I get along.
Yeah.
My wife and I have different perspectives. I'm going to say 70% of the time we come from a different place with things. Now we have the same end game, like you were saying, John. We have the same kind of values, and we have the same. We want to be in the same place, with our family, with our kids, with our lives. But we have different perspectives on things. So instead of her shutting me down or me shutting her down, we actually listen to what the other person has to say and are open-minded to the fact that, and we also believe that everything we say isn't right. I'm not perfect. Again, here's where this flawed piece comes in. I know this is hard to swallow sometimes, folks, but...
Well, even the birth and design of our country, the founding fathers took pieces from the Magna Carta. They took a lot from Greek and Roman philosophy. Obviously, they took a lot, the Bill of Rights kind of mirrors the Ten Commandments. So, you're talking about taking this idea or taking this and collaborating on this and listening to this and working these things out. That's exactly what this nation was founded on.
Well, and those things you're talking about, by the way, when they took all those pieces, they took all those based on historical events, historical data, history,
Right.
things that have happened in the past, to try to prevent those things from happening. They tried as best as they could, and they did a pretty good job of it, folks, to build a constitution that we could, that we could thrive on.
Yeah,
we could preserve.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So I
grow with.
Right. I agree. And I'm just going to say this. We've had many, many, many episodes about that. And I think we need to make the main point in this. So what I'm going to do, Johnny, if you could read the first article, and then Jason, if you take the next one, all of these are from mainline MSM news sources. And these are legitimate examples of things just this week that happened that are verifiably evil. So we're talking about, let's give some examples of like genuine evil, like genuinely evil things that people are doing. And, we're going to come back at the end. Hopefully we're going to be able to unpack like explaining this evil, explaining not giving into it. These are all things you want to avoid, by the way. So, Johnny.
Yeah, this comes from Polk County, Florida. Judd, 17 arrested for child pornography, including the following: Disney employees, nurse, and underwear ingester. All right. Polk County, Florida.
You heard that.
Yeah, I heard that right. I was reading it, and then I had to reread it before as I was saying it. But that is correct. That's what it says.
It's horrifying.
Yeah.
To a sane person.
Well, yeah. Well, there's the challenge. Therein lies the difficulty. Polk County, Florida. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd detailed the arrest and charges of 17 suspects, including Disney and hospital employees, accused of downloading or distributing child pornography, featuring children as young as, get this, a few months old. That's the time that you want to vomit right now. These folks are deviants, Judd said. The sheriff went on to deal a number of arrests, most notably to 2 Disney World employees, a nurse and an undocumented immigrant, a 49-year-old Winter Haven man, and an IT specialist. Judd said liked to purchase and digest soiled, this is where you want to probably put that duct tape around your head real good, soiled underwear. Good Lord.
So that is definitely pure evil. This one that I'm going to read is not just evil, but it's hypocrisy that we're living in today. A street preacher, I can't want to say preacher.
Millions of peaches.
A street preacher entered the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone in Seattle, where his free speech was stifled, physically assaulted, and choked. Elijah Schaefer of Blaze TV, who is a host of the Slightly Offensive podcast, was reporting from the Chaz on Saturday and captured some unnerving video. The New York Times wrote an article about the Chaz titled "Free Food, Free Speech, and Free of Police Inside Seattle's Autonomous Zone." However, speech may not be as free as advertised. Several people in the Chaz demanded that the preacher be removed from the autonomous zone for speech about Christianity that offended them. One activist in the Chaz threatened the protester. In the video, a man wearing a red bandana on his face can be heard telling the preacher, "You'll die out here, bro. Do you want to die out here?" The preacher responded, "Sin is worse than death." The same people who protested police brutality in the past few weeks, especially chokeholds, were the same ones choking the preacher because he didn't obey their orders. The preacher screamed, "You're choking me." One person in the Chaz didn't believe the street preacher should be expelled from the autonomous zone, and he was immediately called a fucking Nazi sympathizer.
So, and that's a quote. And Barb, don't get angry.
Yes.
But there's a video of this, and I didn't include this article because it might be considered alt-right. But in the article, the video that preceded, they actually, one of the gay men that were in the crowd there assaulting this street preacher. The crowd made the preacher kiss the gay guy.
And so
listen, if you're, I got nothing against.
No, it's not any of that we're talking about. What we're talking about is a couple things here. One is that whole open-mindedness.
Yeah.
I mean, they literally, I don't know, what we call it, steal? What do they do? How do they... The autonomous zone is stolen. It's not theirs,
Chaz.
right?
The Chaz.
They barricaded them in.
Like a real kook.
Well, it's now called CHOP.
Well, whatever the hell it's called. They basically stole this, right, and said it's ours now, and these are going to be our rules because we don't like America because America's not fair, America's not free, everything's pushed on us. and we want a place where everyone can be free. And then they turn around and do this. And let me tell you, folks, this reminds me of our last episode when we started talking about the night of broken glass.
Yeah.
Crystal knock.
So think about that. This is exactly the same crap that horrible man did. He said one thing and did another until it was too late.
Steve Scalise demands answers from the Democratic governors on forcing COVID-19 patients into nursing homes. Republican House Minority Whip Steve Scalise is pressing Democratic governors on requirements they set for nursing home, requiring them to readmit COVID-19 patients from hospitals. Policies blamed for the high rates of deaths among the residents.
Trump's fault.
Yeah, obviously. Just sent letters to the Democratic governors of New York, New Jersey, California, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, demanding that they explain why they ignored protocols and forced COVID-19 patients into nursing homes. The outcome was devastating. Families who lost loved ones deserved answers. This tragedy was avoidable, tweeted Scalise. A Louisianian nursing home deaths related to COVID-19 have reached 50,000, according
More
to
than half of all the COVID deaths. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. It's a very relevant point to point out right now. If you're looking at facts, which we like to deal in facts around here, 50,000 according to the Wall Street Journal. That's about 42%, so almost half, of total COVID-19 deaths in the United States. Scalise's letter to Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer stated that his office was seeking information at a granular level about the science and information used to inform your decision to mandate nursing homes and long-term care facilities admit untested and contagious COVID-19 patients from hospitals.
That almost sounds like he's saying, hey, what were the facts that you used?
Yeah.
Oh, man, this whole thing about facts is just
a fact finder.
Listen, this is going to ruffle feathers, and I've said this to a couple people this week, and I'm sorry. These governors are mass murderers.
Evil.
This is evil personified, because you're putting these people with this, and never ever deny that COVID wasn't a real disease or a real virus. You are putting these people with this verifiable illness basically bunking with the most susceptible people in our society to it.
Known from the beginning.
Exactly. And this is murder.
You're closing all this shit down. You're not allowing people to buy. You're only allowing people to buy certain items at stores. Can't buy seeds. Can't buy anything like that. But you are. I mean, this is
evil. This is murder.
My kids, my kids who are young teenagers, 13 and 14. I'm not going to count Carrick in this because he's 17. He may make it. He's old enough to know for sure. But my young kids could look at what was going on and say, "Well, that's not a good idea." Without any factual data, they can say that's not a good idea.
Common sense.
Right.
Yeah.
But my
without the information that these governors have.
Yeah. So let's not get too. We'll go back and comment on all these. But this one really increases me.
Sorry, I just thought what happened.
Well, I don't want to gloss over. I mean, when this whole thing started, and I know this is going to be my opinion because I don't have. But when the whole thing started, what do we all talk about? It reeked of population control. And I know these are some conspiracy theories out there. Here's a warning: conspiracy theory.
Johnny, have we met?
But I think we're in the same arena on this,
dude. It was the perfect weapon.
How about confirm our suspicions? Is what it sounds like is they're doing our job for us.
No, it's like a perfect weapon. It was not just population control, but population control, political control.
Well, listen,
and trade control. I mean, it really is set up to give power. It all comes down to that.
If anyone knows anything about Agenda 21, Google it, which is now what they're now calling Agenda 2030. It's all about global depopulation. Yeah. Bill and Melinda Gates, we're going to get into that in a moment here, are kind of chairing this thing, if you will. But here's the thing. For me, this is one of the reasons I keep going back to COVID 1984 is a ruse. We just saw, this is the Washington Examiner, this is a mainstream news source saying nearly half, according to this article, other sources have said more than half, 50,000, they've said 100,000 people have died of COVID, in quotation marks. These governors, they're murderers. I'm sorry, I won't see it on your way because they have purposely put the most susceptible, the weakest, the ones who are depending on people to help sustain what life they have left, and they are injecting,
funneling them into harm's way. It's putting them in front of a train. It's a moving train.
They're tying they're tying them
down.
They're tying them. That is murder.
Yeah.
And I won't see. This is why I won't. Anyway.
And people want to get people off point. They want to have people arguing over the details of what's going on because the main agenda then can get pushed through and not as many people will get in this way.
And this is why, frankly, I'm not going to wear a mask. America isn't under Sharia law yet. Okay.
Sharia.
And I know that's going to
burn. That's going to chat some.
Yeah. Maybe I might edit that part out. Maybe I won't. Who knows? But the reality of it is that the optics are an illusion. The facts speak different than the narrative that is being told.
Well, I think there are things that can be argued or can be judged, and there are opinions. But I think the main point, what we're talking about right now, is clearly inarguable.
And that's why I'm trying to state facts. Like my opinion, I'm not going to go off on my opinion right now, but we're discussing this factual article where they do have the statistics.
Right.
More than 50,000 deaths. There's been slightly over 100,000 people that, in quotation marks, have died of COVID.
Right.
Right here, based on the statistical facts, more than half of those people were in retirement homes in these Democratic-ran states where these governors put the people who are, by the scientific explanation, most susceptible to this illness. They put infected people in literally the same facility, and they're wondering why they were dying.
Yeah, shocker.
Murderers.
Yeah. This decision likely contributed to thousands of elderly deaths in Michigan. Scalise made similar demands in all of the letters. Whitmer issued an executive order on April 15th requiring nursing homes in Michigan to readmit all residents who had been hospitalized, regardless of whether they had tested positive for the coronavirus. Whitmer has not yet rescinded that order. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo issued a similar order in March. He rescinded it in May.
To his credit.
To his credit. That hurts to say, but yeah, to his credit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, once again, we go on facts,
right?
Not feelings.
Yeah. Well, feelings are deceptive.
And I'm going to have to unpack this one a little bit on a spiritual level. But Jason, go ahead and so this is from Snopes. I'm just going to preface this. It may not make sense, but if you read it, I'll unpack it.
So I do apologize there, folks. It sounds crazy, but I was looking up facts to make sure that the things I was saying was accurate.
Fact.
So I apologize
you define
about that.
facts.
Get out of here.
Sorry. All right. So did Melinda Gates wear an upside-down cross? Melinda Gates wore an upside-down cross in broadcast interviews in May of 2020 to denounce Christianity. Mostly false. Let me rephrase that. So before we go any further, let's just talk about this piece at a time. So did she wear an upside-down cross? Mostly false.
Well, let me give a little preface and then I'll unpack the rest of it. So, Bill and Melinda Gates have been very heavily promoting their Mark of the Beast vaccines, this system, this Revelation 13 system. So, people, I think, are getting sick of Bill. So they thought, hey, let Melinda go out there. And in one interview in particular, this is kind of where this stems from, but there are several. She was wearing an upside-down cross with a ruby-studded circle behind it. This is a verifiable fact.
Yeah, well, we'll keep going, okay. I think.
All right.
So it's mostly false. So what's true about it? Well, based on the examination of the video in question, Melinda Gates did wear a necklace with a pendant in the shape of a cross, upside-down cross that is, in interviews. Well, what's false about it? Well, according to the Church of Satan, an upside-down or inverted cross is not an official symbol of loyalty. Now, just because I'm sitting here with two folks that are pretty spiritually driven. Now, what is false is they talk about
my wife. She might sing you a different song, but
they talk about the Church of Satan. So, in Christianity, what's an upside down cross?
Well, it doesn't matter what it represents in Christianity. What is important here is what it represents in the Luciferian, the satanic religion, and basically,
no, I hear you, and that's what's undermined. Before, I wanted to just ask you, how many of our Christian friends wear upside-down crosses or hang upside-down crosses or anything else?
The only thing that I've ever seen referenced, obviously, there was a disciple who was hung upside down.
I'm just making sure that this wasn't construed as something other than You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to make sure we saw both sides.
The parameters of truth. Right.
Right. So, okay, so what's undermined in this? Due to the low resolution of the video footage and lack of explanation from Gates herself, it cannot be proved whether the cross had 4 equal arms or one longer arm. Even if the latter were true, whether the cross was intentionally or unintentionally flipped upside down is unknown.
So I'm going to unpack this. I'm going to give you a resource. The podcast is called What on Earth is Happening by a guy named Mark Passio. He was a former occultist. For those who don't know, I was once engaged to a woman who was a witch. So I've had it's a long story. If you need to know, buy me a beer or a drink.
Was she the one who defecated in your car? I just need to know.
Oh, God. That's a story, brother.
Technically, it wasn't in the car, but it was outside of the car. But yeah, that was the same.
You handled that like a champ, I got to say.
100% agree.
Sorry, I just felt this needed a little levity before we got.
Yeah, I mean that's probably one of my best stories. I got a lot of them, but
yeah,
nonetheless. So what we have to understand is that in the Luciferian religion or the Church of Satanism, it is an exact inversion of everything that Christianity stands for. So when a Luciferian or a Satanist who sees an upside down cross, to them it is the same as when somebody who believes in Christ sees the cross in this proper way. Now, the reality of it is there's a lot of symbology in regards to what she was doing, and she knew what she was doing. Snopes is ran by some crazy progressive left-wing, and you can be left, you can be right, I don't care, I'm just giving you the context. Cat Lady, who is an Obama affiliate, stay behind, anyway, nonetheless. My point being is this: they're covering, they're backtracking, they're not giving the facts. I'm legally blind, and in the videos I could see she was wearing an upside down cross with a ruby circle behind it. Now, basically, what that means is an inversion. Having the ruby circle, effectively, what that is it's a sign of the sun. It is a sign of the inversion of it, that it is an overthrow. It is a death of what the cross to Christians it symbolizes. So you don't buy a necklace that's supposed to be a cross like that. You don't wear it like that if it's not purposeful.
Right.
So what I want to say is this: we have a lot more to do, a lot more to give you. This is the part 1. Part 2, yes, Virginia, evil does exist, is coming up here in a second. We're going to get right back into it. Make sure you tune back in. We want to thank everyone for listening. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you hear podcasts. Make sure that you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Gab, Parler, FlawedInc.com, info at Flawed Inc. Once again, I want to thank Johnny for coming and hanging out. All right, so tune in. With that being said, peace in the Middle East. Boom! Out.
You are the devil and the devil is bad. Hey! You are the devil